Welcome to the Loving Truth Podcast, where it's all about finding clarity, confidence, and peace in the face of marriage challenges. And now your host, relationship expert, and certified master life coach, Sharon Pope.
Hello, loves. This is Sharon Pope, and this is The Loving Truth. You know, the economic environment, particularly in the U.S., has become a bit unstable. And it's easy to see why. But today I want to explore what happens when couples begin to struggle financially, because we are entering a new time where more and more couples are going to be struggling with finances. Now, most people who engage with my work have been struggling for a long time and for a host of reasons. For instance, maybe there's just a real lack of communication or a lack of closeness, or maybe it feels like there's just no understanding between each other, or empathy or compassion inside the marriage. Maybe one of you is over-functioning, which invites the other one to under-function. Maybe one of you is involved in an affair, or you've not had sex in months or years. Maybe you have different parenting styles. Maybe one or both of you drinks too much and you're just not taking care of yourselves. Maybe there's been betrayals and lies over the years, and now mounting resentments from those betrayals and lies. Maybe you're just not getting your needs met in the relationship, or arguing more frequently. Maybe you've just grown so far apart that you just feel like strangers to one another. And yes, sometimes money makes it really difficult for two people to be able to love one another, especially when one person is a saver and one person is much more of a spender. You see, money provides us with a sense of security. And, you know, whether we're talking economically or politically, things don't feel very secure right now. But also, when your marriage is struggling, that thing that is supposed to be the foundation for your family, it sort of makes you feel like you don't have your footing in any area of your life. So we start to feel really unsteady in our lives. Now, when we're worried and anxious and overwhelmed, who do we usually take that out on? It's not our kids. It's not usually our friends. If we're really honest, we usually take it out on our partners. You know, we don't do that intentionally, but when you're filled with anxiety and worry and uncertainty, you're just not at your best. And, you know, much like a child will bring their worst selves to their parent because they know that their parent is going to love them no matter what, I think as adults, we bring our worst selves to our marriages because we said till death do us part. So it doesn't matter how miserable we make one another or how badly we treat one another, we're staying together. That's sort of the promise, right? And the thing is, financial problems in a marriage, they never make the marriage stronger, at least not until you come through them and come out the other side. So here's my worry. As our concerns about the economy worsen, I think marriages too will worsen. I think that marriages that weren't struggling before will begin to struggle in the coming months and years. And I think that marriages that were struggling previously will worsen. They will get much, much worse. Now, I remember, you know, at the beginning of COVID, at first there was so much uncertainty and genuine worry about what was going to happen. There were so many unknowns. It just felt like people were sort of, you know, hunkering down and bracing themselves for what might be ahead. But eventually, marriages felt the impact of that. And I'll be honest, my business as a relationship coach blew up during COVID. Not at first, but towards the mid and end of that, as people were really feeling the impacts in their marriage, like there were more people reaching out for help and support inside their marriage than ever before. And the nature of my business also changed during COVID. So for instance, people will always ask me, you know, what percentage of people who work with you stay and what percentage end their marriages? And before COVID, it was pretty predictable. It was like 50-50. 50% would stay and 50% would leave. During COVID, however, that changed to about 75% of people choosing to end their marriages and maybe only 25% of people choosing to remain in their marriages. Now, things post-COVID today have settled down a bit, and it's like 60-40. But it's still more heavily weighted towards people choosing to end their marriage than stay in their marriage. Now, part of that also is a function of the fact that most people wait years before they finally reach out for help, where had they reached out for help early on, then the problems inside the marriage probably could have been fixed. But because we wait so darn long before we ever reach out for help, it makes it so much harder. These problems don't age well. They don't get easier. So now, of course, some of the statistics about, people ending their marriages, you could say, well, that's because we had to be sequestered together. And as soon as we were sequestered together, of course, marriages blew up. We don't have the sequester issue today. However, when you don't have a lot of extra money to go out or to travel or to go do fun things, what are you doing? You're spending more time at home. And so is your spouse. So it's some of the same dynamics. And I'll tell you, right now, my business, it feels like the calm before the storm. Things feel very calm right now, but I do think that there's going to become a time very soon that marriages that are struggling are really going to feel the impact of what's happening. And I think that tensions between a couple are going to increase. I think the understanding about how to move through this are going to decrease between each other, and things are going to feel like nothing's really working in the marriage, and more couples are going to start to feel hopeless, unfortunately. And that's why I think that my programs will begin to sell out very soon, which is a good problem for me to have, but a bad problem for our society and for all of us to have. Now, as long as I'm making predictions, I also think that the dynamics of my business could change again because of what's happening economically. So where COVID made people want to run away from their marriage, I think, the economic downturn could force couples who are struggling to stay together, who might have otherwise chosen to end the relationship, right? Because let's think about this for a second. If you literally cannot afford two separate places to live, how are you going to separate and divorce? If you can't afford a mediator or a lawyer, how are you going to divide assets and do the paperwork and come to an agreement so that you can finalize a divorce and move forward in your lives? So there's some very real practical things that I'm sort of looking ahead to and wondering how this is all going to play out. And, the other thing is that if you choose to end the relationship, think about it. Let's say, because you could say like, oh, we'll just do the divorce on our own. We'll be the lawyers for ourselves. And certainly there are some lower price options and you can try to do that. It's not that it's free, but it is significantly less expensive than using a divorce attorney, for instance. But if you don't know how to communicate today, or you don't know how to disagree well and then repair and really hear one another, how are you going to divide assets during the most contentious time of your entire relationship? It's not going to go well. So here's my biggest fear about what could happen. This is the thing that'll keep me up at night, which is women will think they're stuck. They'll think that they have no other choice but to remain in the marriage. And then, because they don't feel like they have any options, and they don't think it's possible to make the relationship any better, they will choose to suffer. And look, it may be a reality that you cannot afford two separate homes, certainly not the size of the home that you live in today. But it doesn't mean that you have to sign up for a lifetime of suffering either, right? So if you're going to stay, I think it's really important that you try to make the marriage feel better. If you're going to be there, why sign up for a lifetime of suffering? Instead, let's do what we can to improve the marriage, to find some common understanding, to see if we can overcome these challenges, right? And if you're going to leave, then let's get equipped with some real relationship tools so that we can make it peaceful and we can do a lot of the coming to agreement beforehand and then hand it off to a professional with 80 or 90% of the changes all agreed to in advance, right? So regardless, you still have options, but you still need to get equipped. And I get if you're thinking, yeah, Sharon, that sounds great, but that's not really possible in my situation because you don't understand my situation. Look, I specialize in impossible challenges. And no matter how bad you think your relationship is, I've seen a lot over the course of the last 12 years. And there's very little that surprises me or is new to me. And so what I want you to know is that no matter what comes down the pike for all of us, you don't have to choose to stay and suffer for a lifetime. Or you don't have to just go blow up your life and hurt a bunch of people that you love. If you're going to choose to stay, even for financial reasons, like maybe that's the initial reason that you're choosing to stay. But if you're going to choose to remain in the marriage, why wouldn't you do everything you could to try to make the marriage feel better? Why wouldn't you see if you could overcome some of the past resentments and be able to move forward in a new way? Evolve the relationship in a new way. Why wouldn't you get equipped with tools that address your specific challenges inside the relationship? So if any of that speaks to you, I would invite you to schedule a complimentary truth and clarity session with a member of my team. They're going to understand what the challenges are inside your relationship. And if they think that we can help you, they're going to invite you to work with us. And if they don't think that we can help you or that there's a better solution, they're going to let you know that too. All right. So you can go check that out and take your next step forward at clarityformymarriage.com.
If you're listening to this podcast because you're struggling to decide whether to stay or go in your marriage, and you're serious about finding that answer, it's time to book a Truth and Clarity session with a member of my team. On the call, we'll discuss where you are in your marriage and explore if there's a fit for you and I to work together so you can make and execute the right decision for you and your marriage. Go to clarityformymarriage.com to fill out an application now. That's clarityformymarriage.com.